Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the overly caffeinated, too many assignments, but not enough time, Arty Side podcast. I'm your host, Phil. With me today in the studio is also Phil. It's lovely to meet you, Phil. Now, today our topic is going over how primary education students, such as Phil here, have been finding their past semester on art. And let's really get down into it, Phil. I was thinking of asking you first question. Look, you've had quite a journey over the past few months, all right? And I wanted to really ask you, what things are there that you've really understood more clearly? You know, of course, uni is about that learning pathway. So what things are there? Yeah, so in regards to music, I would definitely say that one of the things which I've really understood a bit more deeply is the different concepts within music, the different elements. And you have things like, you know, dynamics, you have timbre, you have tone, all these different things that I really kind of knew the names of, but not the meanings of. And those things really have become a lot more real to me now, and I'm thankful for it. Now, that's great to hear, Phil. You know, I actually had a rumor which is going out about you, which is saying that you're a fan of just randomly bursting into clapping in the classroom. Is it true? Yes, that is true. You see, the reason why is because in the classroom, as a teacher, using your voice too much for excessive noise management can lead to your voice getting laryngitis, which I didn't really know anything about or care about. But, you know, I was taught this, using simple strategies like, you know, or if you have like two drumsticks, I just got like a pen here, but you know, you get like something like that, really is a way for kids to regain their attention back to the front without you losing your voice for it. It's really important. Lovely, that's great to hear. So in this whole music syllabus that you'll have to work on, which one do you think out of all these strands is the one that would that you really prefer, having done a little bit in each one of these ones? Yeah, okay, so out of all these strands, I have to say without a doubt, it's got to be performing. All right, performing is the one which I've got the most holistic understanding of. Composing, there's still some things go on. Yeah, thanks. Some ones that really do take some more time to understand. I think I need to spend some more time diving deeper. Okay. Performing, yeah, it's probably my best one for sure. So you find the others to be a little bit kind of up in the air. You know, were you listening in class? Or were you playing on your phone? Yeah. No, I don't play on my phone. I listen in class. Because I heard some rumors that you were playing on your phone in class. I don't know why you would. Look, there might be like one time where I take it out of my bag to check something. Are your students in your primary classroom going to be playing on their phones? Okay, I wouldn't let that happen again. I get your point, all right? We can talk about it after the podcast, all right? Thanks. Okay. Let's talk creativity now. Was there any big moments that you had where this is really seen? What do you think? Look, creativity definitely came a lot during one of the activities in the tutorials where we had to create our own tune for a rhyming couplet of Wednesday Blues. It was a blast. I loved it. It was really good, and you really see the creativity in each of us. That each and every single tune was different, and then you sing the chorus again. It was fun. It was great. I think it'd be a great activity for kids. Now, tell me, if you were doing that exact activity in a classroom, would you just do the same thing for all the years? Is that something you'd prefer to do? Yeah, if I was doing that activity in the classroom, I think that for year 5 and 6, you could probably do that. Yeah, but yeah, and for some of the younger years, I think that you might have to change it up a little bit, because you have to be aware of the different needs and the level of the understanding of your students. I see. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think also you have like the fact that the kids in the younger ages, you would probably differentiate for them. You might have to choose a different song, not like Wednesday Blues. You might choose something which is a little bit less melodically intense, you know, going up and down, you know, different kinds of difficult singing patterns, which would be hard for the younger kids to do. So yeah, make sure you're choosing your songs according to the level of your students is really what I could recommend here. All right, thanks, Philip. Loving the answer so far. Let's switch it up a bit. Let's move from music to do something quite related to music, which you all love. Dance. Yes. So you've done 3 more weeks of that. Tell me, what things have you learned from that? If I had to select maybe 2 takeaways, all right, one of them is your lessons should be fun, all right? Don't take that away from the lesson. The second thing also is that your space should be inviting, should be open, encouraging. The kids should not be feeling that they're afraid to do any of the dance moves, all right? You should really make sure that they're welcome and free to exhibit themselves. So how did you go about creating that space? So in terms of creating that space, look, I can give you an example. In one of our lessons, so we had to do some composition, all right? Something I didn't notice is that in the warm-ups, they actually would literally do some static movements, right? And we just thought this is just a warm-up, all right? But then later on in the lesson, when we have to go to the composing phase and people are getting anxious, they're not sure what to do, the teacher skillfully brought us back to what we had already made up, those static moves. And you just make a little addition to that, a little modification to that. And there you go, there's your move you need to compose. And those little things really just relieve a lot of tension, the stress lessens, and it makes a big impact. That's a really good idea. Now I hear that a big part of this is actually, is part of it called, what, relationships, right? Tell me about that. Okay, a bit of a strange question, but I mean, I'm in uni, but like, I'm not really thinking about it right now. I'm just trying to get my studies done, you know. It's not really on my brain. I wasn't talking about that, no. Oh, you weren't talking about that. Oh, you meant like in dance? You meant like in dance, like yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like the element again. Yeah, okay. I'll try. So yeah, relationships. Yeah, so when you're dancing, of course, you have like between you and someone else, or between like you and an object, right? There's like the interactions. That's really important. I find that very fascinating, actually. Yep. So yeah, cool. Moving on. So when you're, say you're running like one of the strands, is this one also your favorite? Also performing. Yeah. Okay. And when you're running one of these, how does any of this really impact how you're doing that? Okay, so look, let's take a look at one of the examples from our lessons, right? We had to do this thing called we had to do it was a dance from Matilda, Revolting Children, right? And we did like a little sequence of that. It was fun. It was a bit intense, but it was fun. I had such a blast doing it. But the thing about it was that if you're doing it as a group, and as you're doing that, you kind of have to take time to critically think about how my own dancing is. And you have to take time to collaborate with others and see, oh, how are they doing it? Let me look at theirs, see if I can emulate that myself. You might need to ask for their help. And those kind of skills are so important for children to develop. And I think that group performance lessons are just so important for these kids in developing their own skills. Yeah, and their own resilience, of course. Yep, so you found that yourself. Cool. So what about, let's say I want to run a class dance lesson, right? Say it's year 6. What am I doing? Right? How do you choose? How do you choose to make sure it's appropriate? Okay, let's take an activity for example. Let's say I want to do an activity where the kids have to on the spot make up like an impromptu dance. That's good for year 6. Okay, you might be able to do that for year 5 as well, depending on how many moves you have to do, depending on what adjustments you make. But let's say I want to do that for stage 2, for year 3 and 4, or even stage 1. That won't work, right? You've got to be able to appropriate it for the age. So let's say I could modify that, I could adjust, I could differentiate it so that the younger years, when they have to do this same lesson, they could do it, but instead of having to do it on the spot, you give them 2 minutes to think of maybe 4 non-locomotor moves, all right? And that's something that they would be able to logically do, all right? So it's again about knowing your students. Graduate Teacher Standard 1, all right? Know your students. Yeah, cool. It's great to see, Phil, that you're really thinking about that. Now let's move to what I think could be your personal favorite out of the 4 different art subjects, and that is drama. You're a big drama fan? Yeah, so let's think about it. So from what you've learned, how does it really help how or what you're going to teach when you go out into school? Well, I think in terms of learning like how I'm going to teach drama, I think a big aspect of something I didn't really think about before is you have to really make sure that your students are learning in baby steps, right? I mean, something like charades, I would have thought year 4 could do that on their own, but no, they really need to learn how to perceive, how to really exhibit what's going on in their mind and bring that out to the audience. Cool. And so when you're in your classroom, how would you be able to link drama up to other subjects? Is that something that's possible? Yeah, so, okay, for example, it's pretty easy. I could do like a history lesson where over a few weeks I could say my students need to research some things about a historical event. And then I could, get them to demonstrate that knowledge by making a little drama sequence to show what they've learned. You could do something in English where they have to write a story and then they act out that story as well. You could do something in art, where they have an idea that they both need to illustrate and they also have to act it out, different ways to exhibit that same knowledge. And out of all the elements of drama, which one of them is your favorite, or which one of them would you really understand the most? Yeah, I think you would know this, considering that we talked about this before we started. You want to say it? You told, yeah, we talked about this. No, I don't. You did what? You just forgot? Were you listening when I was talking? What are you talking about? Really listen, really. You're just here for a show. You want the views, don't you? That's just preposterous. That's pretty preposterous that you're saying that right now, because I have no recollection of that. Okay, but like I told you, why don't you just choose one? Just try and remember, because I told you this. Just try and remember and say one. Choose. I don't know what to choose. What? You haven't given me anything to work with. You're making up events that haven't happened. They did. You're the one who's... I don't want this to get between us when we're doing a show, but you're starting to make it an issue. Yeah, well, I think you're also the one making a bit of an issue, considering you don't want to listen when I'm talking. I'm here to talk, right? Would you mind just telling us what was your favourite element? We can move on. If you open up your ears and listen a little bit, it was tension. It's tension. Yeah. That kind of explains it, doesn't it? What just happened, yeah. Let's move on. Now, tell me about the, if you wouldn't mind. Sorry, I've got to get my head back into this. Yeah, me too. 4 C's. How'd you get them drama? Okay, yeah, I could probably just go through like each of them, right? You got communication, you got when you're working with your teammates, how am I gonna communicate on the spot, verbally and with like my body language and with how I'm acting, my expression. You have critical thinking, how am I gonna take what's in here and show that to the audience? You have, communication, collaboration. Those two, of course, very similar, but, collaboration, how am I going to work with my partner to try and solve the issue the problem which we need to solve through drama. You also have creativity, of course. The more creative, the better, right? How am I going to look at different aspects within this scene and then make them physical in how I'm going to act it out. Those things I've really enjoyed, especially in charades. And if I could finally ask you about the drama, as we've been asking previously, what about differentiating? What about making sure that your kids are being taught at an appropriate level? How does that go? Yeah, so of course with differentiation you have age appropriation, and there's two things in that. There's of course the student's capacity, and the second one is of course whether it's right for them to do that, and should they know these kind of things, right? And drama has got quite a lot of range, and it's sufficient to say that kids should be taught something which is appropriate for them, which is something you don't see today. And of course with like the level, higher level concepts need to be lowered down, watered down so the kids at younger ages can understand it. So what I'm getting is that, yeah, you really do enjoy drama, and that just leaves only that's the final one, which is visual arts. Visual arts, yeah. Right? What kind of weekly experiences did you do in each week? Yeah, I was only there for 2 out of the 3 weeks. I wasn't there for the second one. Oh, so okay, you went there for the second week, but you still would have learned something in the 2 weeks you were there out of the 3. Okay, and how has it deepened your understanding of art or what you're going to do? Yeah, so honestly, we went through again a lot more of the concepts of like how we're going to practically set up an arts lesson with kids, and they're kind of like the certain challenges that teachers face, certain things that like equipment issues and like getting quality materials for your students, kind of some of the things which you wouldn't expect to learn at uni. So I'm happy they're going through those, and I think that's going to help me, especially like what I got placement for the next few weeks, and if we're doing art lessons, being able to see what we've learned now in uni, the practical things in the practice, is going to be huge. Now I know that in your last week you would have done some things around sculpting, right? And that can sometimes be a little bit even fearful. How do you go about with that? Do you agree? Yeah, you have a point. Yeah, that the sculpting area can sometimes be a little bit fearful, just because there are certain aspects of it which are almost like what you have to have space in your classroom. You have to have kids who are not breaking what you make. But the rewards of doing so are huge, right? You have like kids taking home, hopefully it doesn't break, but if they take it home, their parents will really, really value that. they'll be able to put that up. That's something they can put on like their windowsill. It's something they can put on like the family dinner table, or who knows. It's something that can really just remind themselves of the achievements of their children. It's something for parents to take pride in their kids, and for them to take pride in themselves. It's really big for them. Yeah, so I think even though there is a lot of things which I'm a little bit even worrying about, that it's worth it. It definitely is. Yeah, and what about the elements of visual arts? The elements, yeah. Do you know the elements? Yeah, I know maybe. Why don't you try naming them all? I mean, you got like color, line, tone. Are you done? Yeah, I'm done. And which one would you understand the most? I mean, we're looking at like, you know what? In the last week, one of the activities we did was making organic shapes. Shape is an element of art. And looking, I actually have to say here, I learned a little bit more than I actually used to know about shapes. I was very mathematical. My understanding of shapes were very like, defined. But these kind of like organic shapes that we use to make cardboard sculptures, it was actually quite fun. And like the ideas that you get between making organic shapes as inorganic ones, or like the mathematical geometric ones, it's quite fun. Yeah. How would you really start to again plan these lessons with differentiation in mind, or even with KLAs and other art forms? We haven't really talked about that much. So you focus on the topic of KLAs. Look, we just talked about geometrics in maths, right? And that's one of the curriculum points is geometry in different ages, right? 3D and 2D, and you can integrate that with, of course, we were talking about shape. You can talk about like depth. Yeah, okay. Yep. For year 6, I could say I'm gonna get you guys to build like some 3D. You're gonna create some 3D like optical illusion geometric patterns, right? They're fun. Could I ask you 2 kids to do that? No, they can do something a little bit more simple, something which is still fun for them though. Don't remove that aspect, because that's of course so important for these kids at their age, yeah, for learning. Okay, marvelous. Marvelous. Hey Phil, can I just say, I was going to say it's been great. It's been okay. All right. I think I've had some better guests around the days. But okay. Nice talking with you. It was okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. This was Overly Caffeinated, Too Many Assignments, Not Enough Time, the Arty Time podcast. Thank you once again, Phil, for coming. We will see you again. We don't have to. I don't know. Thank you, everyone.